In this video, we are going to talk about ICP, some of its recent price action, the important support and resistance areas, and where we can expect the price of ICP to go in the next few days and weeks. So we will be looking at the weekly chart, and what I can see here are these trend lines that I've drawn in previous videos, and we can see that ICP is very clearly in a downtrending channel. Since 2024, we have seen ICP continuously create lower highs as well as lower lows. The structure has been actually quite clean for a while, but in the last few months, basically since the start of 2026, it is looking like ICP is perhaps starting to consolidate. It created slightly higher lows actually, but it is still continuing to create lower highs, and it is creating a smaller structure of another downtrending channel. We can draw a trend line between these two highs as well as a trend line between the recent lows. Really, with the recent lows, it is just a support area of $2. We've seen ICP continuously get support on there, and currently it is right at it. It got some support on there a couple of weeks ago, but it wasn't really decisive, and now ICP is attempting to get support on there and hold on to it once again after we did so a couple of times earlier in 2026. And basically, other than the October liquidation event from back in October 2025, when the entire crypto market got a very significant crash, ICP is at its all-time low. Other than that, $2 is basically the lowest point where it reached. And if ICP breaks down below this area of support at $2, this would be different to any other support area. This is a very crucial, and it would lead to ICP probably continuing to dump much further, probably all the way down to the October liquidation event area of around $1.1. So this is a very crucial area of support for ICP to hold on to, both in the short term and in the long term. And back in February, when we saw ICP dump all the way down to $2 for the first time, again other than the October liquidation event, this was back when Bitcoin also dumped all the way down to 60k, and from February all the way up to May, Bitcoin got a very significant relief rally all the way up to over 80k, and during that time ICP also got its own rally, and it rallied all the way up to this trend line to about $4. So ICP got a rally of 100% in just a couple of months and significantly outperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum and basically the entire crypto market. But then since then, also again following Bitcoin, once Bitcoin started to dump from around 82k and went all the way back down to 60k, ICP also started dumping and went all the way back down to where it was back in February, to this area of support of $2. And in the last few weeks, it has been trying to hold on to it. Also in the last few weeks, we have seen Bitcoin try to hold on to the area of 60k, and it did manage to actually hold on to it and rally up to 65k. But ICP didn't get as much of a rally. It is still around $2. Also guys, if you are enjoying these videos and you want more updates about ICP as well as other altcoins and the entire crypto market in general, if you are getting any value from these and you want more updates about ICP as well as other coins, make sure to subscribe to not miss any future updates. It helps the channel way more than you know, and it allows me to continue making these videos. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, and now let's continue with the analysis of ICP. So as I said, Bitcoin rallied all the way up to 65k recently, and I do think that it will probably continue rallying a bit further up to around 70k or so. This is a pretty crucial area of resistance on the Bitcoin chart. I'm not going to get too deep into that in this video, and I'll focus on ICP mostly, but I am expecting Bitcoin to probably get rejected at around the area of 70k and create another lower high. I do not expect it to continue to rally all the way up to 80k again. I think that Bitcoin is still very clearly in a downtrend, and we are clearly still in a bear market, so I would expect it to be another lower high. So I think that really the best case scenario for ICP in the short term is for it to get another lower high as well and rally all the way up to this trend line. The trend line is currently at around $3.3, so this would be a very significant rally of over 50% from where ICP is at the moment. But I don't think that it's guaranteed for ICP to get this rally, even if Bitcoin does manage to get the rally up to 70k. As we've seen in the last few weeks, altcoins tend to lag behind Bitcoin, and although we have seen Bitcoin get a bit of a rally up to 65k, ICP didn't really move that much, so I definitely don't think that it's guaranteed for ICP to get this rally. But in the short term, there definitely is some hope for ICP to get another pretty significant rally up to the trend line. But in the long term, regardless of whether it breaks down below $2 right away or it first gets up to the trend line and then gets rejected off of there, I do think that the most likely scenario is that ICP will eventually continue dumping further and probably break down below $2 and head towards the area of support at $1.1, which is the support from the October liquidation event. Again, this is in the long term. I'm not saying this has to happen very quickly or anytime soon. It could take many months for this to happen, but I'm definitely quite pessimistic about ICP despite its recent rallies, despite this very significant rally of 100% back in May. We have to remember that in the long term, ICP is still very clearly in a downtrend, a pretty bad one, and it is performing very poorly for a couple of years now and underperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum, and also in general most altcoins in bear market historically underperform Bitcoin, and I don't really see a reason to why ICP would be any different in the long term. Again, in the short term, there is some possibility of it getting another rally and continuing to outperform it in the short term, but in the long term, I'm definitely pessimistic about ICP as well as most altcoins in general. And as I said, I'm expecting Bitcoin, even if it does get the rally to 70k, I would expect it to eventually get rejected off of that area and head all the way back down to 60k and probably even break down below it and start to create new lows for this bear market. So overall, I'm quite pessimistic about Bitcoin, ICP, and most of the altcoins. This makes sense since we are still in a bear market, in my opinion, and I would expect us to still be in a bear market for at least a few more months, probably into late 2026 at the very least. So of course, this is no financial advice whatsoever, but at the moment, I would avoid being heavy into altcoins, and I would only consider being into some altcoins that have a very good structure, and only in the short term, I would have very clear exit signals, whether it is selling at a loss or at a profit, and I would be very cautious with altcoins. With ICP specifically, I would look out in the next few days and weeks to see if it does manage to lift off of this area of $2 and follow Bitcoin, and then there is definitely the possibility of it rallying all the way up to the trend line or maybe to this resistance area at around $2.9. This is also another crucial resistance area for ICP. We've seen it behave as support 3 times in the past, quite significantly back in 2025 as well as all the way back in 2023. So this is also another area of resistance for us to look at for ICP. So again, a short-term rally up to $2.9 or even all the way up to the trend line to around $3.3 definitely is possible, but in the long term, I'm very pessimistic about ICP. So that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it and you want more updates about ICP as well as other altcoins and the crypto market in general, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.